right, guys, welcome back to the show. It's me, your host, Aaron, joined as always by Jay, our sound engineer, my co-host, Celine Jung.
Hello.
The 26-year-old intern, Chris, and our very special guest, Justin Kim.
Hello.
Hi, Justin.
Justin, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
We've been trying to get you on the show for like 2 months now.
It's true.
And nothing was lining up.
It's true.
Even today was about to be canceled due to like an all hands on deck meeting at your work.
It's true.
But by God's grace and, providence, you're here.
It's true.
Yay.
It's true.
So I guess, why don't you just give the listeners a little overview of who you are? I don't want to make this sound like a job interview per se.
Our good friend,
Yeah, because, we want to keep things lighthearted. But the episode is going to be centered on kind of your finance career. Has it pivoted? It's gone from finance bro to kind of the tech bro. And now you're kind of a tech bro still, but I guess you're a higher up. But we'll get there. Just give our listeners a brief overview of who you are.
Sure. I'm Justin. I'm 28 years old. Born and raised in Korea. So I know these guys because I went to school with a lot of these guys. So
these guys.
and Celine, of course. I grew up here, went to high school here, and then for college, I was in Boston.
As we all were.
Yeah, as you guys all were.
Not all,
A lot of us were.
So I went to Tufts, studied international relations, thought I wanted to be a diplomat for a while.
Oh,
thought
I didn't know
wanted
that.
to be a magazine editor for a while. I just had a lot of wandering interests and somehow stumbled upon a career sort of in finance. So that took me to Hong Kong after graduating from school where I was for 4.5 years.
At the same company.
Yeah, so I was working for a company called Bloomberg.
I think we've heard of it, man.
Yeah, exactly. So I was doing that for about 4.5 years. Really didn't like it. Thought I would buy myself some time by applying to business school. So I gotten in and I was like, okay,
I remember
fuck it.
that.
I have some time to chill, go back home, live it up for a while. And I met, my current boss now, who's the founder of a company called Miso. So Miso is a startup here in Korea that basically started out as like an Uber for cleaners.
Right.
Model.
It's on-demand maid service, cleaning service.
Yeah, it started out as an on-demand cleaning service. So if you don't want to clean your house for 4 hours on a Saturday, you can press a button.
And Korean
someone
people
else will do
love
it
that
instead.
shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Love what? Cleaning
Like
their
having
house?
house cleaners and
Oh.
people cooking for them and stuff.
I don't know if it's a Korean thing. I
guess it's a wealth thing, but because Koreans, I feel like there's like certain things that signify wealth, And cleaning services are not that expensive out here, surprisingly,
Yeah.
A lot of people can afford it.
I forgot that you worked there because I could have used that service.
I did use that service to clean
You
my
did
carpet.
use that service, yeah.
I mean, the carpet looks amazing. It's clean as fuck.
The carpet worked well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Anyways, but it was interesting because like when I met the CEO and founder, that was just when about 2 years prior to that was when like every company was trying to get into the space. So
the cleaning space.
Yeah, the on-demand cleaning space. So in Korea in particular, there are like 5 or 6 companies doing this. So Kakao launched a service that eventually became a spin-off of basically exactly what we do. There's another company called Wahome, which got a ton of investments. Started by a couple of Ivy League grads. They got investment by Bae Yong-jun, who's like that famous Korean actor. So it was a really crowded space, but when I joined, that was when like the model was really like out of trend. So that was when the companies in the US that were doing this all started to go under. So there was a company called HomeJoy, which got funding by Google and a bunch of other companies that had actually gone bankrupt.
Oh, I see.
So I met with this guy and I'm like, why would I ever want to join like a cleaning company, right? And he was basically like, look, we're a cleaning company now, but our goal actually is to become like Amazon for home services.
Right.
So the idea that anytime you need something done in your home, you can press a button on your smartphone.
And Miso's got your back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I think what really, really got my eye was like, he's like, just think of it as like, we're like giving you like 30 hours a day instead of 24 hours a day. So, instead of like having to clean for 4 hours.
That's a pretty cool way to look at it.
So like, you can get someone else to do it for you. Yeah. Right. So my job was basically to launch like the non-cleaning businesses. So
Yeah.
to help this business go from like a cleanings focused business to like a real like home services platform.
I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the first business that I launched was like,
Well, before actually you tell our listeners what you launched. So the setup is, Justin comes to Korea after 4.5 years in Hong Kong working for big finance company Bloomberg.
Yeah.
Okay. He's given this one mission at this new cleaning company, this cleaning startup, right? That is on the cusp of making cajillions of dollars, right? But let's flash back to, a sunny afternoon, 2008, whenever, what year were you in 2008, actually? No, 2012. You were a sophomore in college? Does that sound right?
That's right.
In Medford.
Yeah.
Medford.
At Tufts University, you are trying to become a diplomat of some sort or a magazine editor. When did the idea of finance even like register in your head? Because I feel like when I was younger, I knew kids who wanted to do finance. They wanted to be rich. They wanted to make a lot of money. Was that ever something on your radar?
Well, I always wanted to make money, not in the sense that like I wanted to have like fuck you money, but I wanted to have enough money that like people that I cared about would never have to like worry about money, right? So that was like my big focus. That being said, I think like in college, I was very focused on like, like what is going to make me happy, right? Like, and I think for me, like that was when I was really into that TV show, The West Wing. So I thought politics was like, like the name of the game for me, right? But not being American, I thought like the next best thing would be like diplomacy.
Yeah,
right?
because your Korean is fluent. Your English obviously is super fluent. Yeah,
yeah. But realistically, like to work at the UN, for example, you have to like go to grad school and do a shit ton of study.
Yeah, you have to go to
like
SEPA.
Yeah, I'm just like way too fucking lazy for that, right? So like I realized that wasn't like, and then the next best thing was like I was really into like magazines about like current affairs back then. So like The Atlantic, New Republic.
I remember at that
Economist.
time, the New Republic had just launched, which was or it's called The New Inquiry. I'm sorry, started by a kid I went to high school with.
That's a literary magazine.
Yeah,
though.
well, kind of became a literary culture magazine, but it was very much before, I think, policy oriented and kind of like a lot of big ideas. Because I remember in 2012, I was graduating from my grad program, and I was like, we did start a magazine. We started a literary magazine called Apogee, and it's still around today. It doesn't make any fucking money. But yeah, there was a lot of excitement back then for these like hard print publications.
Yeah, exactly. And like it was something that I personally really enjoyed like consuming. And at school, like I wasn't in like the Tufts Finance Club or like the tech club or anything like that. I was like the only like activity that I did outside of like my social life was working as like an editor for our like news magazine. So like naturally like that was sort of where my interests lied. And like I remember like that summer that you mentioned, like 2012, that was when I was like deciding between like somehow like someone older than me had given me like a chance to interview at the New Republic, and they're like, okay, we want you to come as like an intern for the summer, like editorial intern. I'm
That'd
like,
be sick.
Yes, like
That would be.
and then like by good fortune, like one of our friends' dads, who shall remain nameless, got me a job at this big consulting firm,
Right.
and he's like, yeah, like come work with me for like a summer. Like,
So you're offered this
Internship.
So you're basically offered, right, like the light side and the dark side, right? Something that might give you a lot of fulfillment personally, New Republic internship, but then this like coveted internship we don't have to say the name of the company that this guy worked for, but he was the CEO of a very, very big company that on any resume would be unlock doors. It would open doors.
Yeah, so I mean, like for me, I didn't really realize like how like coveted it was. Right?
Yeah,
but for me, it was just like like my friend's dad doing me a solid.
Yeah,
and like I didn't even ask him. Like he just kind of like hooked it up.
Isn't that funny how that goes in Korea sometimes? Like these favors will just happen, not with you don't even ask for it necessarily,
Right,
but
and then
maybe
you
parents
go,
are talking and they
I'll
just
do
orchestrate
that.
it.
And then your life goes in this direction.
Literally, your life just goes in a totally
so
different
that's
direction.
what happened
True.
to you. Is like that offer at that internship actually
It changed your life.
that was the
it
thing.
for sure changed my life.
Yeah.
Like the jury's still out on whether that was for like
The best, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But like I remember like I was so excited about this internship at the New Republic, and I'm like,
okay.
fuck, like this is like like I'm gonna be
Sure,
like
yeah.
and I got this like other offer from this consulting firm. I had like no idea what, I didn't even know what like an income statement was or like like whatever, right? But yeah, like somehow I don't even remember how I reached this decision, but I ended up like coming back to Korea to work in consulting,
Wow.
and that led me on a path where I ended up like in finance and now
Well,
tech.
so it was that internship that really, without that
Yeah,
internship,
yeah,
you maybe
for
would have,
sure.
Gone to the New Republic.
For sure, yeah.
So then you're in Korea for that summer. You're working for a huge consulting company, and then you graduate, a year or two later with this experience under your
Yeah,
belt.
yeah.
And were you at that point then, after the internship, I guess you had already decided that, okay, finance is what it is?
All I knew is that I didn't want to do consulting.
Okay.
But I wanted to sort of parlay my experience there into something that would be equally as good pay, but not as fucking like draining.
Yeah.
Like, because my experience at the consulting firm was like not good, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And I think, that's sort of like the norm there, but you just put up with it because it's like a means to an end.
Well,
right?
they pay you so much money, I guess.
Sure.
right?
And it sets you up for like a career. Like, like a lot of people that I work with, they're like, okay, this is like my like, they viewed it almost as if they viewed like the army. Like this is my 2 years that I have to put in, and
No,
then I'm gonna go to
totally.
like Harvard Business.
That
I've met
is
so many-
finance,
I've met so
though.
many
Yeah.
people that do 2 years at a big consulting firm, and then I guess they stack enough paper to be able to take that risk
For sure. Yeah.
to venture off on their own. So so then you graduate college. How long did it take you to land the Bloomberg job? Because I feel like there
Yeah.
was maybe a 4 or 5 month period when you were really gunning for it, or
Yeah.
something like that, right? Because I remember we got drinks back when you graduated.
So yeah, at the end of my internship at the consulting firm, I knew that I didn't want to go back. So yeah, a lot of people do the internship so that they get a return offer, and that would naturally like set them up for post graduation. It wasn't the case for me, so I kind of just like threw my resume like all over the place. All I knew was that I didn't want to work in Korea, and that like practically speaking, it would be really hard for me to work in the U.S. just because
Visa
of like
issues.
visa issues and like
Why not Korea?
I think, obviously it was a very reductive way to look at it, but I just viewed like my experience at the consulting firm to be like emblematic of working culture here, right? So it's very hierarchical. Like, there's a very rigid sort of like job scope. You're very, and of course, like I didn't really know what was out there, but my perception of Korea was just that, yeah, like I basically would have to settle for a job where I would have to eat shit a lot, and ultimately get to a position where I can like make other people eat shit on my behalf, right?
It's the Ponzi scheme of power.
Yeah, it's like shit flows downstream, and that was just like my very like reductive viewpoint of like Korean working culture.
But I think that's largely true.
It's not true everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah,
But,
it's
I mean,
changing.
20
And you were young.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, 2012, I feel like still was a little different. It was still
Definitely.
It was like the end of Korean like working culture being so rigid.
Maybe not the
Korean
end, but things were very
was
different
a long
back
time
then.
ago. I mean, that was
Yeah.
almost a full decade ago.
Exactly.
But so then not Korea, but Asia would be easy enough, right?
yeah. So I wanted to also like, go somewhere where it was like new and exciting. Right? So I remember like this guy I knew who worked at Bloomberg in New York. I remember I talked to him the year before because like I was interested in an editorial internship at Bloomberg because they have like a
Yes.
Right.
editorial arm, and he's like, hey, like our company like recruits for like entry level analysts. Do you want to come interview here? So I interviewed with them, and they're like, actually, like you'd be a great fit for our Hong Kong office because that's where all like our Korean speakers are based.
Nice.
So yeah, I ended up interviewing with them, got the job, and I got the job around like December. So I had like, the rest of my senior year was super chill because I wasn't like
You had it locked in.
Yeah,
And you
I had
knew
it
you were
locked
working
in,
at Bloomberg. I mean, that's a great feeling going into a job, having that 6 month kind of like run, that ramp up to it, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
so for me, like, not knowing anything about finance at that point, I was just kind of like, this is a company that has like a brand name. I get to live in Hong Kong.
Yeah, you bring honor to your family.
Yeah, that's the most important part.
Yes.
But
all.
yeah, so like I was just kind of like, cool, like how bad could this be? Like if anything, like this is going to be like a dope time. I'm going to live it up in Hong Kong. For a
Okay,
couple
well,
of
I
years.
That's
love
the
that.
attitude
I love that,
of
yeah.
a fresh graduate.
Well, it's
too.
just like, I love that famous last words. How bad could this be?
Exactly,
right? So then cut
exactly.
scene, right?
Yeah.
First week in Hong Kong. What was your first impression of living there? Or just like, I mean, you get there, and then you go to the office every day. I can't even imagine how that must have been
Justin's
for you.
face right now is like, how do I summarize?
Yeah,
my
because like it's
experience?
so crazy to just move to a new place, period.
For sure.
But then to move there and have actually all the structure you need because you have a job. So it's like, it's almost, I would imagine that it's very flustering and stressful, but you don't even have time to be stressed about it because every day's work, right?
So I remember I got there like literally a day before like work started. And I got like, because one of my really good friends from college was from Hong Kong.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and she was living there like for the time being. So I got to like hang out with her the night before, and I'm like, okay, Hong Kong's gonna be dope. We had like a really fun night out. Like,
cool.
And then I get to work, and you know, everyone's in suits.
By the way, I love that. It's like, I had one night out. That was fun. Oh, yeah.
I think I'm gonna like it here.
Exactly.
As he tucks himself into bed.
In my PJs, yeah, exactly. But I remember I get there, and like I didn't even know this. Like I thought I was like, you know, like the only one like showing up for work that day. And it's me and like 15 other people. It's like the
What do you
analyst
mean?
class.
New 15
you
new
join together
analysts.
in
I
like
love
a
it.
big
Wow.
cohort. Right?
It's like you're like the X-Men group, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, we're all there in suits and ties and like, you know, very formally dressed. And like our like, the person who's in charge of our onboarding like sits us down and says like, okay, guys, welcome. You know, you guys are like the future of Bloomberg.
Jesus Christ, kill me now.
And,
Jeez, Aaron.
you know, like before, like, you know, like this all started, like people started introducing themselves, right? So there are a lot of people who had gone to like great schools in Asia, but there are also, you know, kids who went to like Princeton and like Berkeley and Harvard or whatever, right? And I remember like the first thing they say to us is that, okay, like at Bloomberg, no matter like where you come from or what you're doing, if you're like an entry level hire, you need to understand what the product is like. I'm like, okay, this is fair.
Okay.
And the way in which you're going to understand the product is by doing customer service for as long as it takes.
Holy shit.
And I'm like, wait, like, what does that mean? Like, I thought I signed up for this job thinking that this was like something else.
That you'd be looking at computer screens of like red and green arrows and
Tickers.
selling and buying.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you're like, where's my computer screen? I'm sorry. I have 3 monitors, right?
I was prepared to
three
sell and buy.
And like, you know, the weird thing was that like my other like batchmates, they all knew what this like job entailed because they had done their like due diligence. But for me, like I was just so like underprepared that, you know, like my department was called analytics. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna be doing some like analyst shit, right? Like whatever, right? But they're just like, okay, your job until we say otherwise is to take customer service calls.
And customer service
Like for the day or for the foreseeable future?
For as long
as it takes.
What does that mean?
Well, first of all, I just want to know, like,
No,
what
they're
the fuck
basically
is
like-
customer service at Bloomberg.
So you
Like,
guys,
what does
What do
that
you
mean?
mean?
so just think of it as like
They
a
have
help
so many
desk.
products. Yeah.
So like Bloomberg is typically used by like traders. So people who like buy and sell like stocks, for example, in the market, right? And a lot of the queries are like, for example, like I'm using my Bloomberg terminal, which costs $24,000 a year.
Wow.
And something's not working, or I don't know how to do something, or I need to solve a problem using this terminal.
Help me find something.
And you have to understand that like during market hours, these guys are like dialed to 11, right? They're super sensitive. So
I see. So you're like the paperclip in Microsoft Word that's like, can I help you with anything?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So again, with the shit flowing downstream concept, your job was basically to like be a help desk person.
Yeah.
And I remember like the first day we got there, like 3 of the people out of like the 15 or whatever, like just literally walked out. They're like,
Shut up.
yeah, they're like, look, like I went to like an Ivy League school, like I went to Berkeley, whatever, like this is beneath me.
I don't
That's
have
so
to do
funny.
this shit.
It's like, I'm 22 years old.
Exactly.
You can't make me do this.
Yeah, exactly. And the way they like positioned it was like, there's no defined time period.
That's what I've heard about.
So
the
you're not
audience.
analysts. They're essentially bringing you on to like.
So their idea is that like we're going to open you up to like all these different great jobs at Bloomberg.
Yes.
But in order to do so, you have to go through this program.
Yeah.
And
It's the boot camp.
the better you do in this job, the quicker you're going to be able to like graduate to like,
Wow.
you know, like a different job.
Yeah.
Was the pay like
Wow.
going into it? Do you know how much you were going to
Oh,
get?
yeah, how
and
was
then
the
they
pay?
Made you like do a lesser job.
Oh,
and-
but the pay was like, I mean,
Give us
you know,
numbers. Give
it's
us
not like
numbers.
banking or
Give
like
us numbers.
consulting, but it's
Numbers.
still like solid. It's very
Yeah,
solid
yeah.
actually. And
That's not numbers.
No, how
Give
much?
us
What was the
numbers. We
salary?
want to know how much.
I actually don't remember how much it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Bullshit.
I was
No,
just
but-
curious if you
Man.
knew what you were getting.
I remember
going
everything about
into
my
it,
income.
'cause-
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And I remember like they basically told us like, you guys are like the highest paid help desk people in the world.
Of course.
For sure. Yeah.
And that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And I remember like there's this video of like Michael Bloomberg talking, and he's like, you know, there are two organizations with the best customer service in the world. It's Bloomberg and the Four Seasons. And like that's our ethos, right? So like they hire a bunch of like really, really smart people to do
Right.
help desk for like
You better hope
however
that the Princeton guy is like good at the help desk shit.
Yeah. But like that doesn't necessarily correlate actually.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You're totally right. I mean, a lot of very
yeah.
well-educated people cannot do very basic jobs that require.
Can't hold a conversation.
Yeah.
Also, I'm like failing to see the connection between being good at like the help line and then being placed into like.
Well, I think-
They just want you to be
Justin's
trained
saying-
in Bloomberg,
Yeah,
like
and also
the product, the
eating shit
culture,
culture. It's
and
like, hey
that-
man, like put in your fucking time in the rat's nest, or the fucking
Yeah.
term they probably had at Bloomberg
I mean,
was.
if I'm gonna make someone eat shit, I'm gonna watch them eat shit. I
mean, don't you-
I'm not gonna just tell someone
in
to eat
every
shit.
like finance crime, blue collar crime movie, like Wolf of Wall Street or whatever, there's always like that scene where it's these like hungry intern kind of guys from MIT or
There's
something.
one guy willing to risk it all,
Exactly.
do anything.
Just does not want to do that bullshit job and wants the shot at big leagues.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like it works clearly, right? The
Yeah.
company does really, really well,
and it
for
creates
some-
a competitive environment.
Right.
Yeah, and
like
for
I'm not surprised to hear
I'm
any
not
of
saying
this.
this is like bad. I'm just saying
Yeah.
it wasn't a good fit for me personally. But for a lot of people, like like a lot of my batchmates are still there today,
Whoa.
and they're making like really, really good money, and
Right,
like they have a
they
really
still
nice
are.
stable
How
job.
much? Say it.
I mean, I have no idea, but they're probably making like easily
400K?
Like, not like 400, like probably like 200K. Like, or something
Chump
like that.
change.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Chump change. I like to hear that.
But yeah, I mean they're doing really well, and a lot of them have gone to have like great careers elsewhere as well. But yeah, and I just remember like thinking to myself, "Fuck, okay, I moved all the way here. Like, I can't just quit. Like
Yeah.
I have an employment visa. Like I can't just like So my goal is just going to be to like get out of this like function or this like role as quickly as humanly possible.
How long did it take you?
So it took me like 6 months.
Okay.
So I was the fastest one in my batch.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Like I remember like I had to like I just had to like when I was at the office, I was like a machine. Just because like I wanted to prove that they have a leaderboard.
A word.
So they have a leaderboard that
So
shows
it really is
like,
competitive as fuck.
yeah, that shows like the rankings. And
I
I remember
see.
like I'm like fuck, okay, I just
Did
have to,
anyone
like-
ever try to sabotage another employee in any way, or like get in their head and get them to? It's like Survivor,
Hey,
but
maybe.
for
I don't
Bloomberg.
know. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, were they mostly men?
Actually, no. It was about like 50-50.
50-50?
Yeah. So there were a lot of women there as well. And then what made it worse, actually, like at that time, was that look, I had like no idea of like what actually like existed or went on in like the finance world, but I realized that within the finance world, there's like a hierarchy as well. So there's like say like private equity investors who are like say like maybe at like the top of the food chain, or
Yeah, I
like I'm simplifying here. And then there are like the bankers that service them, like the investment bankers, and then there are like consultants, and then there's like other people,
The foot soldiers.
yeah, and then like Bloomberg actually within like the financial community, like a lot of people viewed it as like you're our service provider, right? So like that's sort of like
see.
condescending like
Well,
attitude
so
like
why?
existed
Because you
among
would
them.
talk to other like hedge funds, for example, and they'd be like, "Oh, you work for Bloomberg? Like you
So,
work for
like-
us?" That's the kind of attitude they'd have, or
So I would like sometimes go to like these like gatherings where like for example there were like a bunch of like Korean finance people, and I still remember they would look at me and they'd be like, "Hey, what do you do?" And I'm like, "I work for," and like like what do you do? Like what you do
I know, it's such a
define like
fucking-
who you are,
I know,
basically,
I
right?
know.
So and they would be like, "Oh, that's cool," and they would just like turn their attention elsewhere, right? Just
Mm.
because like they only care about like talking to or like socializing with people that are
they're going to benefit them.
yeah,
essentially.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's funny like to see where everyone is now because like, yeah, I'm like confident with where I am
Yeah,
now.
for sure.
And like, with a lot of people, I think a lot of people, for example, like got laid off or, are doing the same job or just like, yeah, but like, again, it's just like very much of this like shit flows downstream mentality where like, I think people who eat a lot of shit ironically tend to like feed a lot of shit to other people. And they think that's just the way it like has to work.
The cycle
right?
of abuse.
Yeah. So yeah, so like that in itself, and like, you know, Hong Kong in general is, you know, it has like great parts about like there's great
But
things
also
about
very
living there.
stratified.
Yeah, but it's also very like finance focused,
Right.
especially like in the expat community where, you know, if you're an expat, chances are you work in finance or something tangential.
And whereas in Korea, if you're an expat, chances are you teach English, right?
Yeah.
it's similar.
It's such
right?
a but it's just so funny. It's like it's like, oh, you couldn't get to Hong Kong, so you had to stop over Korea, huh? see how
Yeah.
long you're gonna stay here for.
So like I remember and I remember at the company they have this like badge in badge out system where, you know, like for example, Bloomberg has like a lot of different offices and they have this like internal database where you can like look someone up
And see how much they go to the office, yeah.
you can see the exact time and location they badged
Which
in
sounds like
and badged
crazy
out.
that they would make that
Yeah.
like information that anyone could look at in the company.
Yeah, I mean, like
Seems illegal.
But to be fair, this isn't like this includes like Mike Bloomberg. Like you can see where like he is as well.
Yeah, but Bloomberg probably got like a penthouse with its own little like check in check out card. You know?
That's all fake info.
He's like, I was working all night.
Yeah.
I
all
mean,
night
like,
long.
look, like whatever they do clearly works, right? Like
Right.
the company is like killing it, but yeah, it's just like for me, it was really hard because I don't know. Like I think, you know, this doesn't apply just to Bloomberg, but it applies to a lot of big companies. But I just find it pretty interesting how a lot of big companies define professionalism as something that I personally view to be very like that's sort of like closer to how you would treat like an infant, right? So, you know, like that badge in badge out thing is like one example, but telling people how exactly they should dress or telling people what hours they should exactly be in the office or telling people from what time to what time they have to eat lunch. Like it's just like a way that like it kind of astonishes me because like if you're an adult or like what you define to be like professionalism should be like, you know, you give a lot of like responsibilities to like people and expect them to like, you know, come through in certain regards, but like the how to is not so important, right? But I think, you know, like a lot of these big companies from what I've observed like places a lot of like emphasis on like sort of the wrong
Obedience, it
things.
sounds like then, yeah.
So for me,
Control.
it's really hard to like adapt to that sort of culture.
Yeah. Because you're such a rebel, man.
Exactly.
You just wanna get out of your
You've got
chains.
that
Ball and blood inside of you.
Tufts
Yeah,
mentality.
what's the Tufts mascot?
An
It's a
elephant.
jumbo.
It's
It's a
actually a
jumbo.
great
it's,
mascot.
it's a jumbo. Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, because you're a jumbo.
Yeah, jumbos are so cuddly and
It's
assertive.
true. It's true.
But how is life in Hong Kong? Like, how were the people there and the people you were surrounded with?
And also, what
The-
were you like in Hong Kong?
You know, we have this image of the finance bro,
Sure, yeah.
especially the Asian finance bro living in Hong Kong is a very
yeah, it's true.
specific person.
So it's all relative, right? Like if you
Is
asked
it?
people within the finance community, if you asked them if I was like a finance bro, they'd
Right.
probably say no.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
for
really?
sure, yeah.
But if you asked Aaron, he would probably be like, "Fuck yeah."
yeah, that's my
right? So,
finance bro
like,
friend.
yeah, that's my finance pro friend.
Yeah,
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 exactly.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
Aaron likes to marginalize me like that, but like
The word you're looking for is more typecast.
typecast
Marginalized.
and marginalized at the same time. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I was super in that scene. Like, I am okay. Like, to be very frank, like for the first couple of years, like it was a lot of like, you know, I was doing a lot of what other people did, which was like, you know, partying a lot and like.
What's the most you spent maybe at a club on any given?
Oh my God, nightclubs.
Crazy night.
I mean, I never really had the juice to like really ball out.
Good.
But, like people were spending like probably like I don't know, like 20K Hong Kong. So that's like I don't know, like $3,000-$4,000.
And these are like
In one
analysts, like
night?
22-year-old analysts.
Yeah, sure.
Wow. That's like so fiscally irresponsible. It blows my mind. But maybe that's why finance.
Would you
that's
have-
why finance guys have that reputation. And I agree. I totally understand what Justin's saying. Because
And they're 22
I know
years
that,
old.
Yeah, Justin has way more common sense than to like blow a few $1,000s on one night.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
And I just didn't have that like money as well. But
Yeah.
like I think a lot of people did. And like for them it was just sort of like if I can't do this, why the fuck am I doing like working in this industry?
That's what I've heard. with,
Or
like,
they
finance
just
guys
feel
in New
like
York
they
as
need
well.
to do it.
Yeah,
you know?
because like
They're-
how do you blow off steam and like also like find validation for your hard work when your office is shitting on you, your coworkers are all trying to kill you and take your job, and
Well, and if
you
also
walk out
all
of
of
the
your
office.
friends and coworkers are doing that.
yeah. It's like it's a way of showboating, but I think it is a way too to be like, look, I might be like hating my life and my job is literally like very hectic and it honestly feels like very like aggressive. Like to work in that environment is an aggressive environment. And at least I can just blow $2,000 on some bottles of Cristal with some pretty girls or something. I mean, I think I can imagine what that's like.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't know. I don't go clubbing.
You probably can more than me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it's fair to say.
Sales at a club, popping bottles.
I can see it, but I guess the sort of follow-up question then is like, would you defend that kind of behavior? Because it sounds so bizarre to us as we talk about it right now.
No, it was sickening, right? And it sort of seemed like that's their biggest driver for working in the first place, which kind of was like, for me, like, is this really all there is, right? And, you know,
Did you have a low point when you like looked at yourself in the mirror with Coke?
No, it wasn't like that. Like, you know, I wasn't like that deep in it.
Okay, and I know you weren't. Yeah,
but you know, the fact that I was working in that kind of environment was just very like off-putting for me, right? Because you know, this is, you know, like it might be great for some people, but it's not great for me. So, like, what the fuck am I doing here? And I think, you know, I had this like sort of notion that like, and it was like a very like old school mentality of like, you know, if you're smart, like the smartest people when they graduate, they go into like finance. But like, you know, today it's like not like that at all, right? And of course, that's like a super like, you know, like foolish way to look at it. But I think like for whatever reason, something was like keeping me around, right? And then eventually I realized that like, okay, I'm just like wasting time at this point. And yeah, I decided to look for a change.
Well, before we close the book on that chapter, right, the Bloomberg years, was there anything that you remember about your lifestyle back then that, you know, you weren't blowing $2,000 at the club, you weren't doing a lot of blow? I mean, Hong Kong is known for the Asian countries to be a very drug friendly country too. Sorry, but I guess my question is, was there any low point there? I mean, it doesn't have to be like a drug-addled recovery the next week, but was there a low point when you just really were?
There wasn't something like that cinematic where I was like, you know, like
like that, like cinematic,
that like Leonardo DiCaprio in like Basketball Diaries, where he's like asking his mom like for like crack money. But like, for me, it was just like what I reverted to was like really just like isolating myself. I really didn't know any other way, so I just like stopped going out, stopped seeing people altogether, and eventually just like my lifestyle became like very, very like hermit-esque, right? Because that's the only way I knew in terms of like avoiding that type of world, right?
This was towards the end when you knew you were going to be leaving Hong Kong.
Yeah. I see. So then, okay, so you put in your 2 weeks at Bloomberg. I remember when you moved back. I think it was around 2017, 2018.
2018.
Yeah. Around like September, October?
Yeah, in the fall.
Yeah. And so you came back to Korea. I kind of remember you being kind of excited to be back in Korea, but also maybe not that excited. Can you clarify?
Also, did you have plans when you moved back?
So my plans were that I would like stick around for a couple of months and then go like to grad school.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Grad school.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Going to grad school was not because I had any like real reason for going to grad school. It was because like I just didn't know what else to do, and I thought that was like a socially acceptable way to like burn a couple of years, right? So, yeah.
Everywhere.
Let's all go to grad school.
I went to grad school and
that's
it's
true.
not worth it.
I know it's not worth it.
Okay, so you came back to Korea. You were going to chill out. I guess, how did you land that job at Miso then? It was like just talking to random hyungs, I guess, huh?
Honestly, I can't remember. I think like we got connected on LinkedIn or something, like me and the founder. And then like we just met and we started talking. And I'm like, okay, like this seems interesting. And he was like, look, we have all these new businesses that we want to start. I don't have the time to do it myself. So like, you should come and do it for us. Right.
Because when you got hired, you were telling us like you were the in-house entrepreneur.
Yeah. So my title when I started was like entrepreneur in residence, which is basically like an in-house like founder of new businesses.
Like a think tank, a one-man think tank.
Yeah, but like I had no idea like what this entailed.
Right.
Or, like, you know, but yeah, I just kind of joined and I was like, okay, like this is going to be like, you know, I'm not doing anything anyway. Like, why not spend like my remaining months in Korea just like doing this, right? It'll be like a cushy gig, like whatever, right?
Before the MBA is what you were
thinking. Before the MBA, like, you know, it'll be a good way to utilize my time a little bit more effectively. Right. And then I remember like I joined and suddenly like, you know, there was no defined idea. So he was just like, okay, like, you know, like whatever idea you want, like
Very startup.
I mean, to go back to
Do
the
whatever
beginning
you
of the
want, yeah.
episode, you left the listeners hanging like, what? So you were given this assignment, right? Welcome to the cleaning
Right.
business, dude.
Right.
Open up a new wing
Do
of our
whatever you
entire
want.
enterprise. So what did you go for?
So I remember the first idea I tried to like make happen was like on-demand massages.
Yes. And I loved that idea. I thought it was
Yeah.
so
So this came from like Aaron actually, because Aaron is like, dude, I
Wow.
love massages.
I
I never
getting,
heard
like-
about
good.
this.
I was getting like 3 massages.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
Yeah, before
free.
Corona.
And also like my mom, she would get like someone to come to her house and give her a massage like twice or 3
That's
times.
very common in Southeast Asia.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, first like it's so hard to like find masseuses and masseurs
And also having
Good
them come to your
ones,
house is
and
way
then-
doper.
yeah,
If you trust them.
if you trust them
Yeah.
and if they bring their own equipment and
Right.
stuff like that. So I started like, what I thought to myself is like, okay, if I can get like 10 people to use this service and like
And they
successfully
tell,
like,
2 of their
like
friends.
I thought like, okay, this would be a good start. And I'm like, how hard could it be? Right. And then like, I got like orders actually. So I contacted some existing like miso customers. They're like, yeah, we love this idea. Let's make it happen. Like we want to like, pay for this service. And I remember, okay, I'm like, fuck, okay, I need to find like professional like massage therapists now. And I tried to first like post an ad on like, one of those like Alba sites, like those like short-time
Part-time
jobs.
job, yeah.
And it wouldn't let me. And the reason why they wouldn't let me is that in Korea, there's like a very like sexually like dark like connotation associated with like prostitution.
Laws against
basically.
massage.
Yeah,
Massage.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they don't allow you to like find massage online at all.
Oh, wow.
And then I went to like, a lot of these like massage like parlors. And what they would tell me is that like, actually we're not allowed to like go into people's homes.
I was just about to say that. It just clicked in my head.
No, I remember,
yeah.
there were a lot of things you found out about.
Yeah.
the
And I'm
laws.
like, why aren't you allowed to go? And they're like, well, there's a lot of reasons. But firstly, like technically in Korea, you're not allowed to make money as a professional massage therapist unless you're blind.
Yes.
Wow.
I know. Isn't that fucking
So
crazy?
there's this like,
Millennium are we living in?
so it was a law
Korean
that
one.
was put into effect like in the early 20th century, I think. But it's like a way for the government
It's
to
a
That
social
is so
welfare
yeah,
policy.
to protect
interesting.
like one of the few jobs that like blind people
That is
can do.
very
Yeah.
interesting.
and they can do it really, really well.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So yeah, I remember I'm like, okay, like I shouldn't do anything illegal. So like I went to like the Professional Blind People's
Oh, wow.
Association of like massage therapists in Korea. So I met with like the head of that association.
And a guy with a cane and a shawl came out with
No.
a big
Aaron!
ass book and was like, "Welcome to the land of the
Aaron,
blind."
what's wrong with you?
Dude.
What the
No.
fuck? Cut that out. Cut that out.
Pretty sure that's what happened, but okay.
But he was blind. He was blind. And then
The worst.
like we couldn't make it work because like how are they gonna like get around?
Right.
Like so there's too many hurdles.
Imagine if your masseuse was like, "I think I'm here, but I really don't know."
Hey,
Aaron!
Hey,
I'm sorry.
I mean, I thought it was a great idea. I'm like, okay, this is a great way for like us to like like give more work to the blind people, but like ultimately it didn't work out.
Right.
Just too much. Yeah.
Okay, so then you pivoted to another idea.
I pivoted to another idea I had in Hong Kong, which was basically like, in college, like my roommate had a dog and, we loved having a dog. But, in Hong Kong, I was like working so much and living alone that like I had no time to walk the dog, even if I like were to raise one.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, fuck, like, like in the US, they have like these services like Wagon Rover where, it's like Uber for dog walkers. If I can make something like that here, like maybe, I can make this for myself and I can get a dog as a result of this. Right.
Maybe they'll give me a dog. That was motivating this entire.
Maybe they'll give me a dog.
And yeah, I remember like, and then like it was the same story, right? Where I like got a lot of demand for
No, you guys were doing pretty well.
the service,
I thought, for a while.
but
I remember.
Yeah.
That's when I moved
like
here.
the difference for like the dog walking is that like I can go and do these services myself. So like I couldn't find anyone to do these services, so I just went and like
I remember
did these
that
dog
too.
walks myself.
I remember that. You'd be like, I have to go like house sit for a cat.
Yeah, I just did all that shit, right? Like, so like at our office, we have like this internal database of like, rankings of like the suppliers and how many like services they delivered. And like, in terms of like dog walks and pet sittings, like I'm still like in the top 10 of people like that deliver the most services.
Wow.
Because I just did so many.
Also, wait,
Justin, I didn't
first of all,
know that.
That's amazing, man. Like, you
Yeah.
deserve mad kudos because
Yeah.
that's putting in the work.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you are officially no longer finance bro. You are an entrepreneur.
A finance man.
Oh, yeah, finance
man,
man.
No, but like, I'm saying you're putting in the man hours
From
to actually
bro to
do the
man.
work.
Yeah, so it was
You know,
super scrappy, right? And
Yeah.
I remember like there was no website, there was no app. Like, you know, like I would like the product was my like phone, right? So I would take orders via like text message, and then I would like, you know, like do customer service via text message.
I totally remember you having
Yeah.
to text people
Like all the
while
time,
we're hanging out.
right? And like, you know, I'm not a very like gregarious person to begin with, but like, you know, with like customers, you have to be like super friendly, right? So like I used to be like eating at dinner at home, and then like all of a sudden I'll be like picking up my phone and be like, 고객님 안녕하세요. You know, like,
totally.
you know, and I had to do that like 24 hours a day basically,
Yeah.
where like, you know,
Wow.
like I remember one time I had this customer who was like fucking shit faced, and she called me at like 2 a.m. being like, where's my dog? I can't find my dog. You know, like,
Oh my goodness.
and then it turned out she was at like the wrong house.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So she was like knocking on someone else's door. She's like, I can't hear my dog. Like, you know, I can't.
God.
Yeah. So like there was like a lot of shit like that, right? And I had to do that for like months, and eventually we launched the service like officially. But for a really long time, like I was like a one-man band, and I literally had to do like every single job at the in the business.
And you must have
right?
learned a lot from that experience.
Well, I think it helped me eventually, because I eventually reached a point where I had to like build out my own team and manage people, and it was a lot easier because I had done all the roles myself at some
right.
point.
So you
right?
knew the kind
Exactly.
of people, the kind
Yeah.
of skills.
Kind of
I knew like what
yeah.
I was looking for and
Good.
what like great versus good looked like, right? And yeah, like looking back on it, like it was so scrappy. Like I don't know if I can like do that again right now, at least while working for someone else. But yeah, it was super fun. Like I remember like I would do everything from like delivering flyers to like random apartments, like being chased by security guards, like delivering like pet sittings, like yeah. Like,
Do you think that you learned anything about the Korean consumer through that experience? Their habits or things that they're willing to buy once but not repeat buy, or?
Well, I think like the biggest thing that I learned is that like like a lot of different consumers exist, right? And the big
Yeah.
mistake that a lot of companies make is that they try to please like all of them from the get-go.
Yeah.
Right? So like obviously like every new order or every new like booking is really important. So they try to make a product that like pleases everyone. But what you really need to do is define clearly like who like your initial like target audience is, right? So like there's this essay written by the former editor-in-chief of Wired called like 1,000 True Fans. You guys should look it up. But it's this idea that if you make like 1,000 fanatics about your product is a lot better than like 100,000 people who are sort of like
Whatever.
like
about it.
yeah, like whatever about it, right? Because these people are going to buy like whatever you put out, but they're also going to tell a lot of people about it, right? And there's going to be a lot of organic growth that comes out of that. So for me, like I think that especially with Korea, there's so many different types of consumers.
Right.
You have to define like who exactly you want to serve, and then just be obsessive about solving whatever problem.
So then for you, did it boil
Korea's-
down to just like what? Double income family that has a precious pet that they're willing to spend a lot of money on, or young people with a dog that they have, you know,
So you're
20
talking
bucks a
pet
week.
specific.
Or like owner specific at that point, right? Because
Yeah.
who owns dogs, right? First of all, and then how much money are they willing to spend on their dog? Blah blah blah. Like I'm curious. I don't have a dog, but my roommate Sue really wants to get one.
She does.
Yeah, she will not shut up about it, Sue.
Korea is so interesting too because especially the pet ownership
Yeah.
market has been developing very recently, and it's
But it's
changing
blown
by
up.
the year
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And there's so many products being put out there right now.
sure.
It's just like as a pet owner, like dog and cat, I feel like every year is like something new, something, you know,
No,
it's
I mean,
crazy.
people love their pets, but Korean people, because we're not having kids anymore.
yeah,
really,
that's like the
right.
yeah,
Like,
biggest.
But yeah, I mean, like the market's big, right? So they say there's about 10 million pets in Korea. So the market's really big.
we
So
can just get $1 from each of those pets.
sure, which is
$10 million.
and it's proven to be successful, like in the commerce, like the goods space, right?
Yeah.
With dog walking, it was really hard because there wasn't that big of a market in terms of people who were already walking their dogs like twice a day.
yeah.
So
see
like
that.
there are a lot of people who have dogs,
They don't walk
but they
them.
don't walk them that much,
Yeah.
right? So you had to sort of like change behavior multiple times, right? So if they already walked dogs twice a day, all you have to do is change behavior from like, doing it themselves versus like when they can't, finding someone else to do it. But versus if you don't walk the dog to begin with,
Why would you start?
you have to convince them to walk the dog in the first place.
Oh, so you
right?
had to
Yeah.
educate consumers like,
Yeah.
hey,
About walking
that
the dog.
living creature in your house that's actually
Yeah.
a wild beast
Right.
needs to be outside.
So it's a lot more of a slow burn, right?
Yeah.
So for us, like that was the big challenge. But we found like, in terms of our 1,000 fans, we found these like tribes, I guess you would call them, or like taste communities that, like, at first, like we tried to approach it like from a demographic point of view, like, like women in their 30s or like, but it was just too reductive. So we based it around like passions or interests. So it's like a framework that like Spotify and Netflix use. But it's these idea of taste communities where like your interests or passions say a lot more about who you are versus like how old you are or like your demographic, right? So, we found like a really big passionate audience within like the like expat teacher community, for instance, because they already had like that like idea of like 2 walks a day. It's like as important as eating.
And they do
like,
have
baked in,
disposable
right?
income.
They do.
They can afford $50 a week.
So like I was on like Facebook groups and like communities a lot, right? Because that was like a really passionate user base. Like we had this like customer who is, I think, like one of the top 10 customers in Miso's history in terms of like number of services they delivered. But they used to get 10 dog walks a week from us.
Wow.
Twice a day during the
Wow.
weekdays, right?
Yeah.
How much did one dog walk cost?
So it depends on how long, but it's usually between like 10 and 15,000,
Okay.
right? Yeah. So for her, like she works at a hotel. Like she's like, one of those people, like GM of a hotel or something. So she's super like busy and she has to work like odd hours. So she needs people to like walk her dog for her.
I see.
And if you walk into her house, like I was her dog walker for a while, and every photo like
On the
in
wall,
the house
Is
is
her
of her dog.
dog.
Like, so you need to target people like
Single?
that, right?
Right,
Single.
right.
And we found a lot of success also with like freelancers. So people like, for example, who were like freelance designers or
Yeah.
freelance like photographers, like people in the creative professions, who also were like single, living alone. But a lot of them we found out like tended to not only like have dogs, but also like exhibited a lot of like existing behaviors with dogs, for example, like walking them 2 or 3 times a day, that made it a lot easier for us to convert them into our customers versus
Right.
like having to educate them in the first place.
Right. Right.
Then the dog walking business is going well enough, but relatively recently, you decided that you're quitting Miso. What sort of
Right.
led up to that then?
So I stopped doing the dog walking business like about a year ago. So I ended up like, building another business for our company, which was basically to launch like every service under the sun. So Miso launched about 60 new services. So
16?
60 new
What the
services
shebas?
in the last year. So I was basically like responsible for our new business team for a long time. But yeah, you're right. Recently, I decided to end my journey at Miso after like 2.5 years. And I'll be going to work at Toss, which started out as like Venmo for Korea.
Yep.
But now is like this like finance super app that does like everything from like investments to loans to insurance.
Wow. So you went from being an IR guy, magazine editor, aspiring magazine dude, to the finance bro, to the tech entrepreneur guy,
Startup.
and back to the now finance man for
Yes,
real.
yes.
Finance
No.
man.
I mean, I still consider it to be like a tech company.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Just because they have an app doesn't make it a tech company, okay?
yeah, it does.
But yeah, so I'll be starting there in about a week.
Nice.
Looking forward to it, or
Yeah, I am. I mean, I think, their whole ethos and the reason why I'm joining is that they believe in like, they stole this from Netflix, I think, or they were inspired by Netflix.
Benchmarking.
Yeah. But it's this idea of like talent density, right? It's like this idea that we believe in like working with like the best people. And if that means like paying this person, say, for example, like, I don't know, like $100,000 instead of paying 2 people $50,000 each, we're going to do that. Right.
Yeah,
But
I
we
see.
believe that like one talented person, one like can have a lot more output than like 2, like say mediocre people. So it's just this idea of like working with people who are like better than you. So I'm excited to kind of go and like learn and hopefully work with a bunch of really great people and and yeah, just like be excited about building again.
And what do you know about the role that you're going to be like filling there exactly?
Yeah, so like in TOS, it's like a very like product driven organization. So basically, like each of the relevant products within TOS are led by like what's called a product owner. So they work with a team of say like developers or designers or
You're
data
an
analysts. Yeah,
You're a product owner.
Product owner.
so yeah, I'll be a product owner working with the leadership team in terms of building out a new product for TOS.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sick. Well, we're very excited for the next phase of your career.
Yes. Well, congratulations.
Well
you.
earned,
Thank you.
honestly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I guess we can conclude the episode on you're not just doing TOS because you're trying to launch your own company.
Oh, I wouldn't really call it a company. It's more of a passion project. So, late last year, I just had like this like moment of clarity, come to Jesus moment where I was like looking at the toilet paper that I was using every day and I'm be like, fuck, like I just feel
always
so
have
bad.
my come
like,
to Jesus
Is that
moments
really
on the
the
toilet.
origins? You
yeah, I mean like
Interesting.
Okay, like to be fair, like I was in that sort of zone because I had been watching a lot of like, I recently watched like David Attenborough's like
Yes.
Netflix thing and like I've been reading a lot about like like how like for example like global temperatures like have risen like dramatically and are like we're like way behind what we set out to achieve and like the Paris and Copenhagen like agreements. But the idea it's just that like I consider myself to be an environmentally conscious person, but I have these like contradictions, right? Like I still order a shit ton of food.
Everyone
that comes
does,
in plastic.
yeah.
I still eat like red meat. And I wanted to kind of just like start small and feel a little bit better about myself by like not using so much. Well, even if I have a bidet, I still use toilet paper. So like the idea is that like,
Dude,
hey,
it's disgusting if you just use the bidet and have it like blow dry your ass. Like,
Exactly.
You need to have some
Exactly.
toilet paper up there.
honestly, wow, I just thought about it. What if we all just used our hands and then washed our hands afterwards?
Yeah,
so
I mean,
we
countries do
actually
that.
have a friend who shall remain nameless who does
Who
that.
does that?
Yeah.
Actually, I thought about when you really think about it, that's not that crazy.
I think that you'd have to always have short fingernails, first of all.
Okay, guys,
There's a
you
few
guys are
things
all
that lead up to
arguing
that.
against what I'm trying to push here. So
So sorry, Justin. Give us a sale on this passion project. So
Yes.
you were on the toilet. You had a come to Jesus moment. Oh my God, I need to.
okay, it wasn't that dramatic or cinematic, but the idea was just that like, hey, like, is there a way to like not use trees in terms of like and I realized that there's actually like a lot of like bamboo in China. So they've been making bamboo toilet paper for years, right? And bamboo actually isn't a tree; it's a plant, and it's the fastest growing plant on earth, right? At minimum, it's 30% less greenhouse gases than like virgin tree toilet paper. And virgin tree toilet paper production accounts for about 15% of deforestation, which is about 27,000 trees killed a day.
And that's the toilet paper that we are all probably using.
That's most people
virgin tree.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So 27,000 trees at minimum. Cut
It's so
down each
sad to
day.
think about that too. Like a tree
Yeah,
that's
it's
been
really
growing
sad.
for like 10,000
No,
years.
yeah.
to
When
wipe
you
my
hear
ass.
stats like that, it's like there aren't enough trees.
No way
Yeah,
there's enough.
and-
There's no way
It's
there's enough trees.
you're right. Yeah, the definition
Yeah.
of unsustainable.
So like my idea was that like, hey, like I want a product for myself where I don't feel guilty about wiping my ass every day, right? So I started ordering bamboo toilet paper from China just to see how it was like. I used a bunch of different ones and I found one that I liked. So the idea is that like, we want this to be a no-brainer. Like we want it to be good for the environment, soft on your ass, lint-free, chemical-free, hypoallergenic. Like in every respect, it's better than traditional toilet paper. The only downside is that it's slightly more expensive. But for me, like, it's not for everyone. For me, it's a trade-off I'm completely willing to make in terms of just helping myself feel like a better person, basically. So the idea is that we want to make this a passion project for not just like myself, but like, anyone we know that, wants it could, use something that I consider to be like good for the environment. So
Do you know anything about if it's like good for the pipes in your house and stuff or anything like that?
yeah, so it's
Plumbing.
biodegradable. It's 100%
Yeah.
biodegradable, which means that like it's not going to clog versus like, a lot of toilet paper, if you use too much of it, it's going to clog your toilet.
Yeah.
So in every respect, it's really a no-brainer, which is why the company's called No-Brainer, or the project is called No-Brainer.
Then why did you say it's not for everyone? Just because of the price?
Well, I think
because a lot of people are dumb, so it's not a no-brainer.
Well, I think there
think a lot about
there are always people who don't really care about the environment,
Okay.
and trying to like convince them otherwise, like they're gonna come around eventually, in my opinion, right? But again, it's like the 1,000 fans concept that I mentioned earlier. I just think that like, there's gonna be this initial audience that is gonna get it immediately. Like for me, when I looked at it, I got it immediately. And for me, it was really a no-brainer. So yeah, like for me, it was just like, okay, we got to do this. And I've been using bamboo toilet paper ever since. And my hope is that.
Or let's see your ass.
Dude, sign me up.
Yeah,
Me too.
We're going to be doing a crowdfunding campaign next month.
Okay, wow.
So all of you guys, I expect, will
Of course.
be buying.
Oh, well,
some
not
rolls.
just us, but the 30-something army.
The 30-something army will
All
have
54
to
of
come in.
us.
Yeah, 55. 55. Yeah, well, you're going to benefit a lot from that 30-something bump, as they
Nice.
call it in the industry.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Just wait. But also,
No,
guys,
I'm excited.
Use the promo code 30-something
30
pod to
30
get
something.
10% off your first order.
Yes.
Honestly, if you guys DM us during the crowdfunding campaign and say, you're a 30-something listener, we'll hook you up.
Yeah.
In
I'm
whatever shape or
excited
form.
for that.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm an anonymous listener of the 30-something podcast,
That
and I
is
use a
very-
lot of toilet paper.
So it's a passion project. It's not really a company. It's a passion project.
Sure.
But
whenever it launches, first of all, I'm excited
Yeah.
to use it.
Me too.
And second of all, Jay and I love making mock commercials for this podcast.
Oh,
Thank you,
yeah.
guys.
Sponsor.
We can do
Yeah.
a real commercial for that.
Nice,
product for
nice.
sure.
Yeah.
And we're gonna,
Recreate your come to Jesus moment on the toilet.
act it out. But yeah, I was inspired a lot by Tesla, where Tesla's mission is to like rid the world of like all non-electric vehicles. And I wanted something where like the mission would be furthered with like every usage of the product. So my idea is that like with every wipe, you're like, that's one less tree you're using, right? So for me, like, I don't have to feel guilty about like using toilet. Of course, like to be very frank, like using your hands, as Celine said, or using a bidet is a lot more
That's
environmentally
what I'm
friendly.
going to do from
It
now
feels
on.
pretty good too.
Never shaking your hand again.
Yeah, so guys, use your hands if you can.
Yeah.
But if you guys must use toilet paper, use no-brainer toilet.
No brainer. Okay. Well, absolutely, we're going to use no brainer toilet paper when it
I'm
launches.
very
I think
excited.
a fun way to close out this episode actually might be, no brainer. It seems like self-evident, right? But I wonder how much we don't know about toilet paper and its history. So I pulled up, 25 fun, interesting facts about toilet paper.
You know what's interesting?
Nice,
Toilet
Aaron.
paper is one of those products in your life you don't think about.
We don't know anything about it.
No, you don't even think about it.
don't
That's
think
why,
about it.
That's
Well,
why I
unless
would
you don't
argue
have
that
it.
like maybe changing people's habits around toilet paper might be either harder or easier because you don't think about
It's a
it.
product that basically has had zero innovation in the last 150 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
exactly.
I think that this list might beg to differ. So, fun fact: does anyone want to guess the first country to have invented toilet paper? Not the first country. Where was it invented?
China.
Yes.
Of course, everything.
Yeah, everything was made in China.
in the 14th century or 6th century, but then it started being mass produced in the 14th. How about this? What percentage of the world do you think doesn't use toilet paper?
Percentage of the world that doesn't.
Most of
use.
India, probably. Like,
Obviously,
that's
most of India.
Like what? How
I feel
much
like
of the
India's
world?
got like maybe half the population.
Okay, well, not.
Okay, 60%.
75, according to this website. 75.
I knew all this stuff already, so I'm going to sit this one out. Yeah.
This is my favorite fact. The first splinter-free toilet paper wasn't made until 1935.
Meaning
Until
the
then-
pieces of the tree and the wood.
Can you imagine being the first to
That's
market
a
with
risk.
That's innovation right there.
Okay, fine. I'll give you that.
And well, to Justin's point, it takes 30,000 trees every day
Yeah.
to fulfill this demand for toilet paper. So if we can offset that by even half, I mean, that's a great accomplishment.
Yeah,
Sure.
so it's interesting to think that way. It's like toilet paper is something we started recently using, maybe.
I mean, it sounds like the Chinese
not
have been
for
using
us.
it for,
Well,
for like 15
The Chinese were
years.
there, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they got such clean asses. I always say this to my Chinese friends. They got the cleanest asses.
Oh, do
When
they?
you observe the asses, you're like, whoa, this one's
Oh,
clean.
wow.
And guys, the closeout fun fact of toilet paper, August 26th is National Toilet Paper Day.
According to who?
According to this blog called restockit.com.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Restock it, yeah. Very reliable source. So maybe August 26th, we'll just have
We'll
a
do
shout
something
out.
special
We'll have a
then.
protest.
We'll have a no-brainer toilet party.
We'll have
Toilet
a
paper
poop off
party.
where we just
Wow, we're.
wipe our asses.
I'm very excited though. Honestly, I really am.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sales.
Mm-hmm.
We're relying on your support.
Sales is going to carry this company.
Every white matters.
With that said, Justin, thank you so much for joining us today
Yes.
for the podcast.
This was great.
Thanks,
Great
guys.
episode.
Yeah.
We really hope that you, as a listener, enjoyed the show. Please comment below if there's anything about entrepreneurship, finance working, taking a shit that you want to contribute to the conversation. We'll be sure to give you a shout the next episode.
To all the bad things I've said about my former company, which shall remain nameless, I didn't mean any of that.
Well,
okay,
he
yeah,
didn't say
yeah.
anything that
Clearly.
bad, I would say.
Not at all.
In any case, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the 30-something podcast, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.